Question 1. Who creates the definition of done, DOD? A. The product owner, as they are accountable for the product's value. B. The Scrum Master, as they are accountable for the process. C. The Scrum Team. D. The organization's Quality Assurance Department. Answer: C. The Scrum Team. The definition of done is created by the entire Scrum team to ensure everyone has a shared understanding of what it means for work to be complete. If the organization has a standard DOD, the Scrum team must adopt it as a minimum and can add to it to make it more stringent. This shared commitment ensures quality and transparency by making it clear when an increment is truly done. For example, the team might agree their DOD includes passing all automated tests and having the code peer-reviewed. Always remember that the DOD is a team-wide agreement to ensure a high-quality, usable increment. Question 2. When multiple Scrum teams are working on the same product, what is essential for them to share? A. The same Scrum Master and sprint length. B. The same developers and team size. C. A single product goal, product backlog, and product owner. D. Daily scrums and sprint retrospectives. Answer: C. A single product goal, product backlog, and product owner. When multiple teams work on a single product, they must be aligned toward a common objective. This is achieved by having one product goal, one product backlog that holds all the work for the product, and one product owner who is accountable for maximizing its value. This ensures that all teams are pulling in the same direction and that their integrated work creates a cohesive, valuable product increment. While they may have different Scrum Masters or sprint lengths, the product level alignment is non-negotiable. An easy way to remember this is, one product means one backlog and one person accountable for its value, the product owner. Question 3. What is the primary purpose of the Daily Scrum? A. To report status to the Scrum Master and product owner. B. For the developers to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and plan the next 24 hours. C. To solve complex technical problems and re-estimate work. D. For stakeholders to ask questions and review the increment. Answer: B. For the developers to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and plan the next 24 hours. The Daily Scrum's purpose is for the developers to synchronize activities and create a plan for the next 24 hours, focusing on progress towards the sprint goal. It is an event by the developers, for the developers, to improve their collaboration and performance. For example, the team might discuss a newly discovered impediment and adjust their plan to work around it until it is resolved. A great tip is to remember that the Daily Scrum is a planning event for the day ahead, not a reporting session for others. Question 4. Scrum is founded on empiricism. What are the 3 pillars that uphold every implementation of empirical process control? A. Planning, execution, and delivery. B. Transparency, inspection, and adaptation. C. Courage, focus, and commitment. D. Product, process, and people. Answer: B. Transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Scrum is based on the theory of empiricism, which asserts that knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what is observed. The 3 pillars of empiricism are transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Transparency means the process and work are visible to those performing and receiving it. Inspection involves frequently examining Scrum artifacts and progress, and adaptation is the adjustment of a process or material based on the findings from an inspection. For example, the Daily Scrum is an opportunity to inspect progress and adapt the plan for the day. Remember this trio, transparency, inspection, adaptation, as the engine that drives Scrum and enables continuous improvement. Question 5. How should a Scrum Master address a product backlog that is not well managed or transparent? A. Take over management of the product backlog to ensure it is handled correctly. B. Coach the product owner on techniques for effective product backlog management. C. Tell the developers to ignore the product backlog until it is fixed. D. Cancel the sprint because the product backlog is not ready. Answer: B. Coach the product owner on techniques for effective product backlog management. The Scrum Master serves the product owner by coaching them in techniques for effective product goal definition and product backlog management. The Scrum Master does not take over the product owner's accountabilities but instead acts as a coach and facilitator to help them improve. For instance, the Scrum Master might suggest a user story mapping session to bring more clarity and transparency to the backlog. Think of the Scrum Master as a guide who empowers the team members, rather than someone who does the work for them. Question 6. A company wants to use a committee to act as the product owner to ensure all departments are represented. What is the most appropriate response from the Scrum Master? A. Agree, as this ensures stakeholder alignment. B. Explain that the product owner is one person, not a committee, to ensure clear accountability and decisive leadership. C. Suggest that the committee can create the product backlog, but a single person must approve it. D. Allow the committee to act as product owner but designate a lead to break ties. Answer: B. Explain that the product owner is one person, not a committee, to ensure clear accountability and decisive leadership. The Scrum Guide is explicit that the product owner is one person, not a committee, to avoid unclear lines of authority and delayed decision-making. This single point of accountability for maximizing product value is crucial for making decisive choices about the product backlog. While a product owner should seek input from a committee of stakeholders, the final decisions must rest with one individual. A Scrum Master would coach the organization on this principle to prevent the diffusion of responsibility. Think of it this way: if everyone is accountable, then no one is. Question 7. Who is authorized to cancel a sprint? A. The Scrum Master. B. The developers. C. The product owner. D. The stakeholders. Answer: C. The product owner. Only the product owner has the authority to cancel a sprint, although they may do so after consulting with the stakeholders and the Scrum team. This is a rare event and only happens when the sprint goal becomes obsolete, making the work irrelevant. For instance, if a competitor releases a feature that makes the current sprint's work pointless, the product owner might decide to cancel it to avoid wasting effort. The key takeaway is that because the product owner is accountable for maximizing product value, they are the only one who can make the call that the sprint goal no longer contributes to that value. Question 8. The sprint backlog is composed of what three parts? A. The sprint goal, the selected product backlog items, and the list of impediments. B. The sprint goal, the selected product backlog items, and an actionable plan for delivering the increment. C. The selected product backlog items, the budget, and the timeline. D. The sprint goal, the list of tasks, and the daily status reports. Answer: B. The sprint goal, the selected product backlog items, and an actionable plan for delivering the increment. The sprint backlog is a plan by and for the developers, and it consists of three key components. The first is the why, the sprint goal. The second is the what, the set of product backlog items selected for the sprint. The third is the how, the actionable plan for creating the increment, which often involves breaking down the selected items into smaller tasks. This complete picture provides everything the developers need to guide their work throughout the sprint and adapt as needed. Question 9. What is the primary activity during a sprint review? A. A formal sign-off of the work completed by the developers. B. A demonstration of the increment to stakeholders. C. The Scrum team and stakeholders inspect the outcome of the sprint and determine future adaptations. D. The Scrum Master provides performance feedback to the developers. Answer: C. The Scrum team and stakeholders inspect the outcome of the sprint and determine future adaptations. The purpose of the sprint review is for the Scrum team and stakeholders to inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog. While demonstrating the increment is part of the event, the core activity is this collaborative inspection and adaptation, which informs what to do next. The event is a working session, not just a demo, where valuable feedback is gathered to update the product backlog for future sprints. For example, after seeing the new feature, a stakeholder might suggest a change in direction that the product owner then considers for the backlog. Think of the sprint review as a crucial feedback loop for the product itself. Question 10. What does it mean for the developers to be self-managing? A. They can work without a Scrum Master. B. They choose what work to do in a sprint, and how to do it. C. They can change the sprint length whenever they want. D. They do not need to attend Scrum events. Answer. B. They choose what work to do in a sprint, and how to do it. Self-management means the developers have the authority to decide who does what, when, and how within the boundaries of a sprint. During sprint planning, they select the product backlog items they are confident they can complete, and throughout the sprint, they manage their own work to achieve the sprint goal. This empowers them to use their collective skills and expertise to find the best way to create a valuable increment. For instance, they might decide to pair program on a complex task without needing permission from a manager. The takeaway is that self-management is about ownership over how the work gets done, not about ignoring the Scrum framework. Question 11. What is the increment? A. The plan for the next 24 hours created during the daily Scrum. B. All the product backlog items selected for the sprint. C. A concrete stepping stone toward the product goal. D. The list of process improvements from the sprint retrospective. Answer. C. A concrete stepping stone toward the product goal. An increment is a concrete stepping stone toward the product goal, representing a usable, done, piece of value. Each increment is additive to all prior increments and thoroughly verified, ensuring that all increments work together. The increment is the tangible result of the sprint, and a new one is created every sprint to enable inspection and adaptation. For example, if building an e-commerce site, one increment might be a functional login page, which is a valuable step towards the final product. Always remember that an increment must be usable to provide real value and allow for meaningful feedback. Question 12. At the end of a sprint, a product backlog item does not meet the definition of done. What happens to this item? A. It is automatically moved to the next sprint backlog. B. It is removed from the product backlog permanently. C. It is returned to the product backlog for re-estimation and reordering. D. The sprint is extended until the item is done. Answer. C. It is returned to the product backlog for re-estimation and reordering. Only work that meets the definition of done can be part of an increment, and sprints are not extended. If a product backlog item is not done by the end of the sprint, it is considered incomplete and is returned to the product backlog. The product owner will then re-evaluate its priority and order, and the item may be selected in a future sprint after being re-estimated. This ensures that only finished, valuable work is presented at the sprint review and that the product backlog remains a single source of truth for all future work. Question 13. A developer is hesitant to share that a task is taking much longer than expected, fearing they will be blamed. Which Scrum value is not being sufficiently demonstrated? A. Focus. B. Commitment. C. Courage. D. Respect. Answer. C. Courage. This situation points to a lack of courage, which is one of the 5 Scrum values. The Scrum team members need courage to do the right thing and work on tough problems, and this includes being transparent about impediments and challenges without fear of blame. A supportive environment where team members feel safe to be open about progress, both good and bad, is essential for empiricism to work. If the developer had the courage to speak up, the team could have inspected the situation and adapted their plan. Remember that courage isn't about being fearless, it's about being open and honest for the good of the team and the project. Question 14. Which statement best describes product backlog refinement? A. A formal, time-boxed event that happens between sprints. B. The sole responsibility of the product owner to prepare for the next sprint. C. An ongoing activity where the product owner and developers collaborate to add detail, estimates, and order to product backlog items. D. A meeting run by the Scrum Master to get stakeholder approval for backlog items. Answer: C. An ongoing activity where the product owner and developers collaborate to add detail, estimates, and order to product backlog items. Product backlog refinement is the ongoing process of adding details, estimates, and order to items in the product backlog. It is not a formal Scrum event but a collaborative activity involving the product owner and the developers to ensure the backlog is ready for future sprints. This continuous refinement helps create clarity and a shared understanding of the work ahead. Typically, it should not consume more than 10% of the developer's capacity. Think of it as pre-planning that makes the actual sprint planning event much smoother and more effective. Question 15. What is the primary output of the sprint retrospective? A. A revised product backlog. B. A list of individuals responsible for performance issues. C. At least one actionable process improvement for the next sprint. D. The next sprint goal. Answer: C. At least one actionable process improvement for the next sprint. The purpose of the sprint retrospective is for the Scrum team to inspect itself and create a plan for improvements to be enacted during the next sprint. The most important output is at least one actionable improvement item that the team agrees to focus on. This ensures that the team is constantly adapting and becoming more effective, which is a core tenet of Scrum. For example, the team might decide to implement a new communication practice and add it to their upcoming sprint backlog. The key is to turn reflection into concrete action for continuous improvement. Question 16. What is the Scrum Master's role during the daily Scrum? A. To lead the meeting and collect status updates from each developer. B. To ensure the meeting takes place and that the developers keep it within the 15-minute time box. C. To help the developers solve their technical impediments during the meeting. D. To represent the stakeholders' interests and ask clarifying questions. Answer: B. To ensure the meeting takes place and that the developers keep it within the 15-minute time box. The Daily Scrum is an event for the developers, and they are responsible for conducting it. The Scrum Master's role is to ensure the event happens, is positive and productive, and stays within the 15-minute time box. The Scrum Master only participates if they are also a developer working on sprint backlog items, or if asked by the team to facilitate. A good Scrum Master teaches the team to hold an effective daily Scrum on their own. Think of the Scrum Master as a guardian of the process, not the manager of the meeting. Question 17. Which of the following is a characteristic of a Scrum team? A. It has subteams, such as a testing team or an analysis team. B. It is typically 10 or fewer people. C. It must have a designated project manager. D. It is directed and managed by the Scrum Master. Answer: B. It is typically 10 or fewer people. A Scrum team is a small, cohesive unit of professionals, typically consisting of 10 or fewer people. This size is small enough to remain nimble and large enough to complete significant work within a sprint. The team includes one Scrum Master, one product owner, and developers, and there are no subteams or hierarchies within the team. All members work together to achieve the sprint goal. This structure promotes better communication, collaboration, and a shared sense of ownership. Question 18. What is the purpose of the product goal? A. To describe the scope of a single sprint. B. To provide a long-term objective for the Scrum team to plan against. C. To be a contract with stakeholders on what will be delivered. D. To list all features required for the product. Answer: B. To provide a long-term objective for the Scrum team to plan against. The product goal is the long-term objective for the Scrum team, providing a target and context for all their work. It lives in the product backlog and gives the team a purpose to plan against, helping them focus on a larger valuable outcome rather than just a series of disconnected sprints. Each sprint should be a step toward achieving this overarching product goal. For instance, the product goal for a new mobile banking app might be to provide our customers with a secure and user-friendly way to manage their finances on the go. This goal guides every decision made about the product backlog. Question 19. A Scrum team has been working in 2-week sprints. The product owner is going on a 3-week vacation and asks the team to have one 3-week sprint to align with their absence. What should the Scrum Master advise? A. Agree to the 3-week sprint as a one-time exception. B. Suggest canceling the sprint during the product owner's absence. C. Coach the product owner that sprints must be a fixed length to establish a consistent rhythm. D. Allow the developers to decide the sprint length. Answer: C. Coach the product owner that sprints must be a fixed length to establish a consistent rhythm. Sprints are the heartbeat of Scrum, and their fixed length, of 1 month or less, provides a consistent rhythm for inspection and adaptation. Changing the sprint length to accommodate vacations or other external factors disrupts this cadence and reduces predictability. The Scrum Master should coach the product owner and the team on the importance of maintaining a consistent sprint length. Instead of changing the sprint, the team should plan how to handle the product owner's absence, for example, by ensuring the product backlog is well prepared in advance or by empowering a delegate. Question 20. A Scrum team's progress is blocked by an impediment. Who is primarily responsible for causing the removal of this impediment? A. The developers, as they are self-managing. B. The product owner, as they are accountable for the product's success. C. The Scrum Master. D. The specific team member who is blocked by it. Answer: C. The Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is responsible for causing the removal of impediments to the Scrum team's progress. This doesn't mean the Scrum Master fixes every problem themselves, but rather they ensure that the issue is addressed by the right people, whether inside or outside the team. For example, if the team needs access to a specific software tool, the Scrum Master would work with the IT department to facilitate that access. Think of the Scrum Master as a servant leader who clears the path so the team can focus on delivering value. Question 21. During sprint planning, the developers are unable to select enough work from the product backlog to satisfy the product owner. What should the Scrum team do? A. The product owner must add more detailed, smaller items to the backlog. B. The Scrum team collaborates to negotiate a sprint goal that is achievable. C. The sprint is cancelled, and the product backlog is refined further. D. The developers must work overtime to meet the product owner's expectations. Answer: B. The Scrum team collaborates to negotiate a sprint goal that is achievable. Sprint planning is a collaborative event where the entire Scrum team negotiates the work to be done in the sprint. The key outcome is a sprint goal, which provides focus and flexibility. If the developers believe the amount of work is not feasible, the entire Scrum team must collaborate to craft a sprint goal that is both valuable and achievable within the sprint. The sprint goal is a commitment by the developers, so they must be confident in their ability to meet it. This negotiation ensures a realistic plan and upholds the Scrum value of commitment. Question 22. Why are all Scrum events time-boxed? A. To ensure that everyone has a chance to speak. B. To provide a fixed schedule that can be communicated to stakeholders. C. To minimize waste by creating focus and preventing work from expanding to fill the time. D. To make sure the team does not have to work overtime. Answer: C. To minimize waste by creating focus and preventing work from expanding to fill the time. All Scrum events are time-boxed to minimize waste and ensure an appropriate amount of time is spent on an activity without allowing it to drag on indefinitely. This practice is based on the idea that work expands to fill the time allotted, so by setting a maximum duration, the time box creates focus and encourages efficiency. For example, the 15-minute time box for the daily Scrum ensures the event is a quick synchronization meeting, not a long problem-solving session. A key takeaway is that timeboxing is a form of constraint that actually enables agility and focus. Question 23. The developers finish all their selected product backlog items with time remaining in the sprint. What should they do? A. End the sprint early and start the next one immediately. B. Work with the product owner to select more product backlog items to help achieve the sprint goal. C. Spend the remaining time on technical debt reduction and learning activities. D. Wait for the sprint to end and enjoy the downtime. Answer: B. Work with the product owner to select more product backlog items to help achieve the sprint goal. The sprint goal is a commitment, but the scope of work in the sprint backlog is flexible. If the developers complete their planned work and the sprint goal is met, they should collaborate with the product owner to pull in more high-priority items from the product backlog. This maximizes the value delivered in the sprint and ensures the team remains productive for the entire duration of the time box. The key is that this decision is made by the developers in consultation with the product owner, always keeping the sprint goal in mind. Question 24. What is a key difference between Scrum and a traditional, plan-driven approach to project management? A. Scrum does not involve any planning. B. Traditional approaches deliver value only at the end of the project, while Scrum delivers value iteratively. C. Scrum teams do not have a manager, while traditional teams do. D. Traditional approaches are for software development only, while Scrum can be used for any work. Answer: B. Traditional approaches deliver value only at the end of the project, while Scrum delivers value iteratively. A fundamental difference lies in how and when value is delivered. Traditional, plan-driven, or waterfall, approaches typically deliver the entire product at the very end of the project after a long sequence of phases. In contrast, Scrum is an iterative and incremental framework where a potentially releasable increment of value is created every sprint. This allows for early feedback, risk reduction, and a faster return on investment, as valuable features can be released to users long before the entire product is finished. Question 25. When is an increment considered done and ready to be inspected at the sprint review? A. When the developers have completed all the tasks for a product backlog item. B. When it meets the Scrum team's agreed-upon definition of done. C. When the product owner accepts the work. D. When it has been deployed to the production environment. Answer: B. When it meets the Scrum team's agreed-upon definition of done. An increment is considered done when all the work performed on it meets the criteria specified in the definition of done, DoD. The DoD is the Scrum team's shared understanding of the quality and completeness required for a product backlog item to be part of the increment. This ensures that what is inspected at the sprint review is a truly finished and potentially releasable piece of the product, not just code complete. Acceptance by the product owner or deployment to production might be part of the DoD, but the ultimate gate is the DoD itself.